All right, thank you. All right, we'll call this work session to order here. And first thing, as always, is there anything anyone would like to review on the regular agenda? I will just give you a heads up after consultation with the city attorney and the city manager and the city clerk. We've had lots of consultations about this. We're going to postpone bills number 9255 and 9256 until our September 2nd meeting. City attorney has a few things he'd like to do with that before we consider them. So we'll have to make the motion during the meeting, but I'm just giving you a heads up. Yes, it is. All right, updates.
Sure.
I'll call in David first.
Okay.
Jamie, would you like to begin? Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. I last week or the week before, I don't know what time is anymore. I went to the Missouri Municipal League training in Columbia, and that was very interesting. I learned some things that are very helpful. And I couldn't attend my first ARB meeting as their liaison, so Emerson was kind enough to step in for me for that. So thank you, Emerson. Volunteered at the Webster Arts Fair.
Bring us in, is that right? Yeah.
Yes.
Thank
you. Interruptions for cake only.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Since we're being recorded, I think we ought to acknowledge that we have just finished a very nice ceremony recognizing some of our police officers for the good work that they've done, and Acting Chief Weimer has given out some awards, and they were nice enough to share their cake with us. All right, please.
Okay. I volunteered with some of you at the Webster Arts Fair, and that was a lot of fun. Thanks to Emily for organizing that. And I had a lovely conversation with Ms. Renee Tyler last week as well. So good things. Thank you.
We haven't had any, I haven't had any council or commission meetings since our last meeting here. We had the volunteering at the Art Fair, which was great fun, and it seemed like a really great event this year. Good weather, which is always nice, and some cicada friends, which is always great too. And then we had the Webster Rockville Ministries trivia as well, and that was a great event by the organization. Hopefully raised lots of money for the good work that they do.
Are you ready? You want us to keep going?
No,
Okay.
no. I attended the 2 community events as well, the art fair and the WRHM trivia night. It was a lot of fun. Got to see a lot of friends we haven't seen in a while, so that was good. And yesterday sustainability met, and they are talking about what they're looking forward to the budget of 2025 being passed, and they're talking about the priorities for that. Most of them are just continuing with projects they've identified and making sure those are successful in the next year. And then we are happy to report that the greenhouse gas inventory and report is coming together well, and council will be hearing more about that at the end of August, in September. And I also met with Renee last week, so it's good to get back in touch with everybody.
Thank you, Emerson.
That me?
That's you.
Really no other comments. The trivia night was a lot of fun, and ministry did raise some much needed funds. Sat in on the brief for Amy, and the most significant thing is the Euclid Elms project was approved, so that's going to be moving forward. Yeah.
Excellent.
And also the Webster Rock Ministry will be having a day at the ballpark. I think it's June 29th, if I'm not mistaken. So you can give a call. We got some good seats at a very reasonable price from the St. Louis Department. So make it a great event. Get your tickets for you and your family, friends, neighbors. So it's a fundraiser, but small funds, but it's we call it more of a community event. That's it.
Right, David.
No updates from me, Madam. Yes,
Absolutely.
Juneteenth, third annual celebration is tomorrow evening. Thursday evening. Tomorrow is Juneteenth.
Yeah, there you go.
Tomorrow is Juneteenth. The city hall will be on holiday, but the celebration is Thursday evening at 6 p.m. 7:30 p.m. It's gonna be a lot. That's it.
I have no updates, man.
Katie, anything for me? All right, I'll go here, give Karen a minute to settle in. Few things, Old Orchard, Business Commission met, still working on their master plan. But everyone should note that Silver D's, our ice cream / coffee shop there, is now open, so.
Crossroads.
Crossroads, yeah, what did I say? I said Old Orchard. Wow, they're gonna kill me. I really do know where Silver D's is, you know. Right. Also Traffic Advisory Commission met last night, several things, Marshall Place parking's become an issue. As a byproduct of the success of Telebus, so there's some recommendations that I think, we'll see pretty quickly. And Valley Road and is also become an issue on trash days, so a few things will come forward about those two. The commission finalized its recommendation for a shared parking plan, which has now been submitted to the city manager. So there'll be some time for staff feedback before it comes to us. So that's moving along. We found out today that we have been invited and we have already accepted July 9th. The National League of Cities is making us a stop on their 100th anniversary tour throughout the United States. So there'll be a meeting next week to talk a little bit about what we might do in that period of time. We've got basically 1 hour to show them everything wonderful about Webster. So yeah, we'll figure it out though. We'll figure it out. So that I do think that's really exciting. So good news. And then I did want to give Yvonne Steingruby a shout out because I was at the rededication of the butterfly garden at Ruy Park, and the garden women absolutely love Yvonne and the way she supports their work, and so I just wanted to make sure that everyone in town knew that, and everyone on council certainly did. All right, Karen, do you have anything for us? All right, well then we will move on. I see that our director of planning is here, it's Mark Perry, and so we'll have a comp plan update. Yes, you can hear me. No. Wow, that's a good question. What's the future?
So we wanted to give a quick update regarding the comprehensive plan and how we have moved forward. So for those of you that know, we did have a pretty good 3-day stint where the consultants were in town, did kickoff events. We had listening sessions, workshop, and data gathering. And during that time, we had 12 listening sessions with approximately 70 people engaged. This is the list of all the different groups. We kind of gathered the groups based on some organization that they had provided to us. One of the things that we did do was for our sessions on residents, we actually invited the rest of our commission members that were super, super excited to attend. Those were probably the two most well-attended sessions, were those 2 extra sessions for board and commission members. We had a separate vice chair and chair for board and commission members that were also held. And again, pretty well attended. The only one that wasn't as well attended, which we would love to get a little bit more, was we tried to do a Chamber of Commerce event where it was businesses not in Webster, so we could get that feedback from the other businesses that are in the chamber with us. We only had a couple who attended for that session. We then had that conversations workshop at Webster University. I know a number of the council members attended. We had 20 people who signed in officially. I know there were a couple more who probably attended but did not sign in. We also held additional virtual listening sessions after the consultants left. It included the Arts Commission during one of their meetings, the City Council, and then we had a session with city department heads. We had an online survey that opened on May 2nd and closed on May 31st. 254 responses were received, which was a pretty good number. We found that with the additional promotions, it really did help to get additional feedback coming in. Timeline right now, we have phase 1, which is from March till around July. We do have a draft in that will be able to be reviewed and released soon of all the data gathering that they did while they were here. We've already gotten that all pulled together and should make that available to the public quite soon. Their next phase would be sort of going from about August through November, where they're testing the ideas, defining what they want to bring forth with the community. And then a phase 3, which would be December through spring of 2025, with more of developing the framework of strategies and that roadmap for implementation. Their next planned visit, they do have a couple things that they've provided us for pop-ups. Some of you I know saw both either Bud on Sunday or myself on Saturday at the Webster Arts Festival. We basically had cards with a QR code, talk to people if they had any questions. It was really hot on Saturday, so I think my numbers were way less than Bud's numbers. His numbers were much better because it wasn't so warm. But it was quite a good number. We basically stood at the one entrance closest to where the main tent was, and we did have a very large, beautiful banner, but because the winds were so bad, finally put the banner down. I was trying to hold the banner and keep it from falling over while talking to people. So that was a good first pop-up. We hope to have a series of other pop-ups. But the plan is that they are going to come back in town in August, going to tie it into one of the concerts in Old Orchard. And then also use that as the school will be open at that point. So trying to tie in with some families or with children. They do want to talk with like high school students and things like that. And because of the timing of when they came on, school was ending and they weren't able to do things like that. So that is their sort of plan of action for the future. And any questions?
So there are a couple of boards and commissions. I know, and I appreciate very much the attendance from board and commission members at those, but there are a couple of boards and commissions that are, traffic advisory that really probably need to hear very much about what they're doing. Are we still open to scheduling some of those with boards and commissions? I mean, just having them pop in on Zoom during?
I don't see an issue with that at all.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the same thing with sustainability yesterday. They really, the line in the letter about the budget where we requested input on the comprehensive plan, they were like, okay, when do we get to do that? So sustainability.
So sustainability TAC, if there are other.
Green space
space,
and
okay.
historic preservation, I'm sure would want to be involved as much as they can.
Right, so we'll follow up on those.
We can give them the schedule of when those
Okay.
commissions meet.
I'm sure the
Yes.
BDC is involved, right?
Excuse me?
The BDC.
I don't know that they've actually heard from them.
The BDC as a whole hasn't, but in the individual or group listening sessions, we had a lot of business representatives.
Okay.
For you, or did you, I mean, put you on the spot, prepare a list of all the attendees
I
from the
do.
listening sessions?
I have a list of all the attendees, so we can go back and look through, and then when I did that list of attendees, I correlated it with which commission they were from.
Mhm.
We also, we had an extra staff member who's been helping us map out, they're gonna map location of where people who are residents
Okay.
live in the city, to try to see what kind of, we're basing it on elementary school locations. So if you're within a certain elementary school location, so they'll be mapping those. But both of those are in the spreadsheet.
And that was for the survey responses, when you're talking about the GIS mapping, or
Oh,
well, so
no.
we're doing it for the survey, but we're also doing it for the listening.
We're also doing it for the listening sessions. So yes, for the listening sessions, they're gonna have a list of, this many people were outside of the city, and then have it based on locations of elementary schools. The survey also had a question of like, which elementary school were you closest, to help us gauge where our feedback is coming from.
There probably is there are probably a couple outlying BDC members that aren't in a business district, so I just letting you know that.
All the BDC members were invited.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
that was all.
every commission member was invited to all of the listening sessions. So that's where that's why we had 2 entire sessions filled with at least 12 people each.
Good.
So we had to just go back and look and see where they fell. Did they fall in the business owners session?
Yeah,
Did they fall in the,
Thanks.
So as you bring back additional information for CODA, just thinking about this, because they're still wanting to meet with groups. I'm not sure how many more individual groups will be able to slate those since commission members were included. But if we could come up with just 2 or 3 times and then hopefully. And we'll do those probably virtually again, I would imagine.
So when you say groups, you mean groups that we put together or stakeholder groups that are already organized?
So there's no more that are organized currently,
Okay.
but of the listening sessions, because they were all previously invited. So we originally within the RFP, and I don't want to get too far ahead, how many listening sessions did we have?
I think we only had 12.
I think we had 12
Okay.
and we've held 13.
Okay,
So as we invite them to do more, we also have to be cautious, are we adding to the scope of work?
gotcha.
Because they'll gladly do it. They'll say yes,
Yeah,
and I just
right.
don't want us to get us down the road
And then I want to get paid for it too.
Well, they will.
Which is fair.
Uh-huh.
All right, anybody else have questions for Mara? All right, thank you very much. You know, this is another big project.
Thank you.
Okay, we have no appointments to boards and commissions. I am going to ask Councilmember Bliss to call for a brief closed session before we have our regular meeting. For which attorney? I underlined it for you.
Okay. I'd like to call for a closed session, executive closed session related to attorney-client privilege communications, Missouri statute 610.021 subsection 1.
Second.
Mayor Arnold,
Yes.
Councilmember Bliss,
What? Yes, sorry.
Councilmember Franklin,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander.
Yes.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd.
Yes.
Councilmember Hasselmeyer.
Yes.
And you'll be limited to 3 minutes, and we do ask that you please state your name and address when you come to address the council. I think that's it, and we will start with the roll call.
Yes, Mayor. Mayor Arnold,
Here.
Councilmember Bliss. Here. Councilmember Franklin.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Alexander.
Here.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd.
Here.
Councilmember Hasselmeyer.
All right, we will start with our remarks from the community and visitors. And I know I saw a card on my desk, and I'm almost positive it said Dave Buck. So Mr. Buck, please come forward. How in the world could oh, I dropped it on the floor, Dave. I'm not trying to avoid you, I promise.
That's going to have 3 minutes. What did you say?
Well, I'm gonna get to that, Neil. Thank you for the lead in. Segue. Dave Buck, 124 South Elm until the August 1st, and then we sold our house, we'll be moving, and hopefully staying in Webster. So, but anyway, I want to talk about kids. And I think most of you were probably kids once. Neil, maybe not so much. Twice. The kids are the most creative people on the planet. They are the hope of the world. I am blessed with 6 kids and 10 grandkids. And I wanted to share just a couple of things. And thank you for the lead in, Neil. The first thing, I was teaching my Carpe Diem creative thinking workshop at Bristol. This was a year ago. And during the workshop, I posed a question to, this is the 5th grade class. And I posed a question, which is, what does racial equity look like? And the kids paired up, 2 girls, black and white, they were friends, went to work, they came back like 15 minutes later. I said, Mr. Buck, we have the answer. and they showed me this design. Any creative idea is a new combination of 2 or more existing elements. Here's what they did. They started with the famous yin yang, black and white yin yang with the 2 dots in it. But then they overlaid it with the happy face, the popular happy face. And they colored it gray. Why? Because white and black equals gray. And they made a smiley face. And I'm telling you, I looked at this and my jaw dropped. It was like, whoa, that is so cool. So I printed up a bunch of t-shirts, and this is mine. And I'm wearing it tomorrow for Juneteenth, and I'll wear it on Thursday over at Ivory Crockett Park. I have 3 of my grandkids go to Bristol now, and they came up with this. We together love Webster. See that? We together love Webster. So you can do it really fast. We together love Webster. See, isn't that really cool? Now, my point in bringing this up is that I think I have advocated this idea for several years, and I will keep advocating for it, that I think Webster Groves has 17 boards and commissions. You need a youth advisory board. Kirkwood has one, and it's pretty functional, and it works, evidently. We need one, because look at the 2 big things that are going on now in the city. Prop W, well, 23% of our population is 18 and under. That's almost 5,000 people that we ought to be tapping into, because they are more creative. And so kids. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone who has any new business? Yes, because we do have one now. Yep, no hands raised. All right. So, new business? All right, we'll go on to unfinished business. Councilmember Hasselmeyer, could you call for the 3rd reading of bill number 9254, please?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to call for the third and final reading of Bill 9254 and call for its subsequent adoption.
Second.
Bill 9254, third reading. An ordinance defining the pay grades of the classified and unclassified service of the city of Webster Groves, fixing the compensation for employees in said classifications, and repealing ordinance 9247.
All right, is there any discussion? All right, have that vote.
Councilmember Bliss,
Yes.
Councilmember Franklin.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander.
Yes.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd,
Yes.
Councilmember Hasselmeyer.
Yes.
Mayor Arnold.
Yes. All right, we will now move to new business. First up on our agenda are budget amendments. I do not believe anyone has anyone, but I want to give one last chance. All right, we will move on then. Councilmember Alexander, could you call for the adoption of resolution 2024-31?
Yes, Mayor, I would like to call for the adoption of resolution 2024-31.
All right, is there any discussion?
A second, please.
Oh,
Second.
sorry about
Second.
that. Any discussion? I'm gonna just take a minute, because in the back row, we have a bunch of, and not just the back row, but in the back row especially, we have very important people. And this budget is a very different budget than we've had to deal with in the last couple of years. And that really is due to the work of our directors, our director of finance, our city manager. We really are in a place now where I wouldn't have guessed necessarily that we'd be this far this soon. So I wanted to just say thank you, because that's work that you all have done, and it has been greatly appreciated by myself, and I know by the rest of council as well. Right, if there are no further comments, let's just go ahead and vote on this budget.
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Franklin,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander,
Yes.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd,
Yes.
Councilmember Hasselmeyer.
Yes.
Mayor Arnold,
Yes.
Councilmember Bliss.
Yes. Councilmember Franklin, could you call for the passage of resolution 2024-32, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to call for the adoption of resolution number 2024-32.
Second.
All right, is there any discussion? All right, we'll have that vote then, please.
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander.
Yes.
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd.
Yes.
Councilmember Castlemeyer.
Yes.
Mayor Arnold.
Yes.
Councilmember Bliss.
Yes.
Councilmember Franklin.
Yes.
All right, next up on our agenda is a presentation from members of our Charter Review Advisory Board on their council compensation recommendations. Joe, I think you're kicking it off for us here. Thank you very much. And I never miss an opportunity. We have several other members of the Charter Review Advisory Board here today to once again say thank you for all of the excellent work you've done. It's going to take us almost a year to do everything you did in a year. And that once again suggests how impressive the work ethic of this commission or board was. So please.
Yes, thank you. Yes, with me today here is our chairman of our Charter Review Advisory Board, Jeannie Kirkton, and then as well as members Nicole Chaput and Jennifer Finney. Jennifer and I, along with Melissa Johnson and John Eppers, were members of the Compensation Committee. And we met for several months during the review process that we were under and looking at the compensation issue. So in this short presentation, I'm going to top line our findings and then our recommendations. If we can go to the next slide. Just as a starting base, this is the language that from the current charter that we're working from. The city council members, $20 for each regular special meeting, not exceeding 600, and the mayor, $25 for each meeting, not exceeding $750 in any 12 months. That's the process that we started from. If we go to the next slide. Thing that is important to remember is that the charter is not changed on this issue since 1965. That's a long time. There's been at least once, twice, maybe that the council has considered changes, but they did not come to votes, did not get approved. I believe the last time was in 2001, 2002 timeframe when there was a proposal from the Charter Commission at that time, and the majority of the council at that time decided not to go forward with it as part of the package to the voters. In our research, the current compensation levels, if you put that against the CPI inflation calculator, those are the numbers that they would work out to if we just use that as a calculation base. Then we also took a look at how the Webster Groves level is compared to other elected officials, and we are the lowest of, at least that we found in the St. Louis County, among any of the types of municipalities. If we can go to the next slide. There's a version of this that was in the Charter Review report. It is a little bit shorter. I've added three other municipalities just to help provide you with a comparison. These are the levels that are being used currently, to the best of our knowledge, and we did calls to those that were not available online to verify information. So as you can see, Webster's situation is the lowest of those. We can go to the next slide. In our view, in our subcommittee consideration, and then also when we worked through the full Charter Review Board, it was emphasized that we want to recognize the time and effort that city council members and the mayor puts into their job to oversee the public interest, to help manage the city operations. And we think that merits some compensation. We are now currently in a situation where we have a compensation that's too low and can be a deterrent. It does not even cover the cost of a babysitter for 1 hour, basically. And that's another reason to look at this as a change. You're currently on a per meeting basis. at least in our estimation from the Charter Review Advisory Board, we felt it would be simpler process to go to a flat monthly or annual basis approach. That may merit some discussions internally and with your council as to whatever tax and legal obligations that might impact. And then the compensation increases that we on the CRAB do recommend would have a small impact on your city budget. There is an impact because we are at such a low level. It is a substantial percentage increase, but even then, at least in our proposal here, it would be a rather modest increase. Go to the next slide. So we have 7 recommendations. Set the compensation for city council members at $400 per month, not exceeding $4,800 per year. Set the compensation for the mayor at $625 per month, not exceeding $7,500 per year. Those 2 recommendations were somewhat based on what we saw in the calculator, and also in our discussions internally, we thought somewhere around where the Creve Coeur example was a good comparison. We would also have language that would have no city council member or mayor presently serving shall receive an increased compensation during their term of office. And that the current rate of compensation per meeting approach would remain in effect for each office holder until the next term for that office begins. If you go to the next slide. And then going forward, we look at every 4 years after the effective date of a charter amendment, that the city council would then have authorization to review the compensation levels and adjust the levels by ordinance. Many, I won't say most, but I'd say many of the other municipalities in St. Louis County do it that way through ordinance. And of course, any change in compensation approved by ordinance would again not take effect until the new term begins for each office. We did include a provision that the council could have the option to put in place a citizens commission if it chooses to do so, to study and recommend compensation levels if that's desired. And then also to state in charter language that the council members and mayor may receive reasonable reimbursement for necessary expenses and fulfillment of their offices with appropriate documentation. Those are our 7 recommendations. If you go to the last slide, this kind of just shows you in comparison with that, those changes that we recommend, where Webster would sit in amongst the other municipalities that we reviewed here. That's a quick run through of our findings, recommendations. Happy to answer any questions, or if my colleagues want to say any comments, I'll open to the floor.
Yeah, is there? Yes, and please do come to the microphone.
Yeah, I just want to say that this is one area of our charter review where the members were unanimously and enthusiastically in favor of raising the council pay. And then the public was around 52% were in favor of some level of increase. And then there was 35% that no. But so we enthusiastically support whatever you decide to do to increase the salaries.
Thank you very much, Jeannie. All right, are there questions for members of the Charter Review Advisory Board?
I was just wondering if there had been discussion about setting it so that it kind of goes up with CPI or kind of increases automatically without needing to go back to council.
Yes, we did have that discussion in subcommittee. And I dare say that maybe 1 or 2 of our subcommittee members were interested in that approach. As we discussed it further, some of it, I'll say only speak for myself, I had concerns about taking and putting in an automatic escalator for this situation.
Every 4 years is kind of like a check-in, like not, it's not automatic, but there's something more regular than every 60 years.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's why we have that,
Yeah.
language there, to do it. The changes that were proposed back in 2001, 2002 did have a CPI escalator in them. That was part of the package that was being proposed, as well as an increase, and then it would be set to a CPI type of adjustment on an annual basis. And that was not approved by the council at that time.
Do we know if any of the other municipalities have that type of arrangement, or do they all do it by just periodic?
I don't,
It didn't come
we don't know.
across.
I don't have that information.
Didn't jump out.
It did not jump out.
Okay.
It is, at least it's not in the charter language, and trying to find this information via the municipal codes is
Yeah.
not easy, so. But it was not in their charter language that we reviewed.
Thank you.
I mean, I'd be interested to know what the model charter cities says about raising compensation based on an index rather than.
I'm pretty sure the model charter was silent on compensation.
Yeah, I don't remember compensation being part of it.
What was your hesitation with the auto increase?
In my view, I'm speaking only for myself, I felt that it was best from a perception standpoint that we set a level and let the voters have a chance to, vote on it rather than for it to be automatic. Now, again, we're talking about setting by ordinance and that's, part of our recommendation. Obviously, a council could use the CPI as part of that process.
Joe, I really appreciate all your hard work and with everything that the CRAB has done, I think the discernment that you guys have undertaken is quite evident. So I thank you for that. I had a few questions. One, I just wanted to ask first, my understanding is that the school board, Webster Grove School Board their members do not get paid. Is that your understanding?
That is correct.
Do you know if they've been in discussions as to whether they should, from an equity standpoint, from whatever standpoint they look at it from, whether they've been in discussions or investigating whether they should pay their board members?
I do not know the answer to that. I don't know if our other. Yeah.
They can't be?
State law.
Excellent. And that's a great answer. I love to hear that. My other question is, and either you or Representative Kirkton might know this, but how is pay determined for our state legislature? Like, do they increase it on a yearly basis or anything like that? Or has it not been increased in years, which I wouldn't be surprised by?
They go by the Citizens Commission, and the Citizen Commission every 2 years recommends a salary, and the legislature turns it down because they don't want to have mailers saying, oh, look at these jerks raising their salary.
Well,
So-
that's a great segue, Representative Kirkton, because I was going to ask, I think that this issue arose the last Charter Review Advisory Commission back in 2000-ish. Do you know the reasons why it was never put to a vote of the citizens at that time? Do you remember the arguments or the reasons that the council had?
I don't remember the reasons, but it was,
Similar?
well, I don't think so.
Oh.
But it didn't pass the council.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so they did eventually 2 years ago, I believe, got a pay raise, the legislature and the judges. Well, the judges usually get a raise.
They had
But-
it too.
Yeah, right. I was there then. But they, the legislature did not take up the resolution. And so if they don't act on it, it automatically goes in place. So they did get a raise a couple years ago, but not because they chose it.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
I would also point out that many of the levels that you see there date back several years. A few of them have actually changed in the last 2 to 4 years, but several of those amounts do date back several years.
Joe, you might not know this, but when I first ran for this seat, I proposed eliminating all pay for council members. I have since obviously changed my tune, not because I'm going to be the recipient of this, but I do think it would make for a better pool of candidates and for potential candidates. And I also think from an equity standpoint, and if this council in this city is interested in equity, I think it is a strong argument to make that we would have build a greater equitable system if we were to pay council members. So I really thank you for your hard work on this and for all the details that you guys have been able to provide us.
I got just one question. If you wouldn't mind, Karen, going back 2 slides, please. So number 3 and 4, no city council member or mayor presently serving shall increase compensation during their term in office. And then the current rate of compensation for each office next term begins. And they're sort of repetitive, but I get why they're both there.
Yes.
I do have a concern about this because, not for the mayor, by the way, I can exempt myself from the concern, but our council is staggered. So we will have a 2-year period where some members of the council will be paid a very significant amount of money more than other members of the council. Just if you might review, and I know a little bit about sort of the reasoning behind this.
We did consider this within both our subcommittee and particularly at the full board level. Many of our board members wanted to see the increase changes go into effect as soon as possible. Obviously not within the same term of the office, but as soon as possible then. Obviously the staggered terms does create that issue. There was also a desire, at least I put forward a proposal during our consideration to at the board level to delay the whole implementation of it for 4 years so that everybody could go in at the same time. So you'd be making your changes, and the voters would, if they approve that, it would not go into effect until everyone has new terms in place. That puts it out too far in the view of our members of our board. So we dealt with that issue, but we did not determine any other way to get around it other than to have that.
So I'm assuming the reasoning for doing this is we shouldn't vote for our own raises.
That is the philosophy that we approach this as.
But technically, we're not voting for our own raises because it is up to the residents of Webster Grove or the voters of Webster Groves to make that decision. Does that change the rationale at all in your mind?
Not in my rationale.
And I'm not going to ask you to speak for everybody, I know, but you're here.
I can only speak for myself because from what we've seen in many of the other charter guidance documents from the other municipalities, they have the same similar language of not in your term of office.
All right, thank you.
Pretty standard.
I had a similar thought process too, that the first time will be by the voters. And so I don't know why that couldn't be implemented at the same time for everybody, whether that's immediately or in a year, whenever that is. And then subsequently with council, maybe that's, when we're the council is voting for their own increase, maybe that is one where there's more of a delay.
And one of the items that the review board mentioned is about the amount of time that we put in as being city council. So waiting 2 years we're going to spend the same amount of time this month as we will 2 years from now. Mm-hmm. So once the community approves, if they approve it, I think should go in effect immediately.
And I think the other thing too is just what has been stated already, but I think I just want to reiterate it, is that I think that it will make it more, it will increase the pool of people, I think, that are interested in serving in this capacity, because it is, it's a lot. And people have children and people have commitments and there's time. And the thing is that what you don't see is that we put in a lot more time than every 2 weeks. And so to get people to be interested and willing to make that commitment, there just has to be some type of a compensation for the time that's required to get a larger pool.
So I am getting the sense here that, as we did our other charter review amendments, is the next step then would be asked for the city attorney to go ahead and draft the language. And then we would have a discussion about the language and a formal vote, along with a discussion about the ballot on which we would like to place that. I think we have scheduled for our July 2nd meeting. Gonna look at the clerk and the manager to do that for both the compensation as well as public engagement sections. So if council is good with that, then we'll go ahead and have that formal, so we know exactly what we're actually voting on.
Are we all in agreement about what the compensation will be? Do we need that for this language?
I was gonna suggest that the drafting be based on this language. We can then amend it in any way we would like.
Okay. So I'll take their adoption, create that, and then you all can address it as you address.
Okay.
Everyone okay with that process? All right, thank you very much, Joe. And I apologize, Mr. Joe Dugan. I was very informal with you when you came forward, but thank you for
Thank you all.
all right. Councilmember Franklin, would you please move to postpone this?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to move to postpone bill number 9255 and bill number 256 till September 3rd.
Second.
Okay, to call for the vote?
Yeah, oh, yes, sorry. I need to do that, don't I?
Councilmember Alexander?
Yes, did you say to the
The first meeting in September.
September, you said September. Yes, yes.
Okay. Councilmember Hickson Shepherd?
Yes.
Councilmember Hasselmeyer?
Yes.
Mayor Arnold?
Yeah.
Councilmember Bliss?
Yes.
Councilmember Franklin?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Right, is there anything anyone would like to remove from the consent agenda?
So not remove, but we, talk a little bit more about the waste management item.
Councilwoman Hickson Shepherd had asked earlier if we could have Ms. Cavato present or just share a little bit about the contract amendments, and she is here and prepared to do that.
Please proceed.
Thank you.
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
So the contract amendment to the July 1st, 2023 waste management contract clarifies language that was previously sort of a verbal agreement, such as like picking up waste in the business districts twice a week. And so we wanted to get that put in writing, along with some verbal language of picking up white goods, appliances for $25, which was sent in a text message. So
Sorry, we apologize for that interruption.
that's okay. I spent many nights reading the waste management contract. It was good, good for me. So we've clarified in this amendment and proposed to council for consideration to include that in the waste management contract. It is a no cost change.
Yeah, I was curious what it was changing from. So it was our request, the city's request, not Waste Management's request. And it's to kind of codify or write down things formally that might have been kind of a handshake agreement in the past. Do you think this will make it easier for customers who've had issues, or easier for the city to like intervene on the behalf when there is like a pickup issue or a question? Do you think this will have any impact, I guess, to customer service or clarity?
That's a great question. I don't know. I think customer service has greatly improved since we've identified the changes in the scope of services in the waste management contract from the previous 2018 contract. But I definitely wanted to solidify what was agreed upon and get it in writing and get it amended to the contract. I think the customer service, the miscollections, waste management has since got a new project manager, and he's very responsive along with our operations team. So we've been working very well together.
That's great.
Ms. Cavato, time has gotten away from me. When did we start meeting with waste management? Vera has been very proactive. She set up some meetings with new staff, new management leadership at Waste Management. We've had several meetings with them over the past few months. I want to say last 4 months. Does that sound right?
That sounds right. Last 4 months.
This amendment is that 4 months in coming. This was one of the discussions that we had at the meeting. It's been a little slow in coming to solidify the things that Vera is talking about. I think since that time, to get to your question, the customer service has drastically increased. The complaints have fallen off substantially. We are still getting a few, but they're more random in nature. We were receiving several complaints a day, as I believe many council members were receiving them as well. But particularly, I think this amendment is helpful for the business districts because it does put in writing those 2 pickups weekly.
Great. That's really good to hear. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, I'll just also point out, we have another partnership with the city of Oakland now for
Mhm.
Parks and Recreation Services. So thank you for the work in helping us be good neighbors.
Yep.
All right, Councilmember Bliss, would you call for the approval of the consent agenda?
Yes, I'd like to call for the approval of the consent agenda.
Second?
Councilmember Hickson Shepherd,
Yes.
Councilmember Hasselmeyer,
Yes.
Mayor Arnold,
Yes.
Councilmember Bliss,
Yes.
Councilmember Franklin,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Alexander.
Yes.
All right, we have not made any appointments this evening, so I believe that brings us to the conclusion of our meeting. And it's done before 10 o'clock at night for once.
Oh my God. That's good.
Thank you very much to all the hardworking staff of the city of Webster Grove who have been through all these budget meetings with us. We are
Yes.
very grateful for that work.
There we go.